Hey guys, so I'm currently in Zagreb, Croatia, and we've been traveling for over 9 months now as digital nomads. And a lot of people have asked me, what is it like? What do you not like about it? What are your favorite parts about it? And this is why I wanted to make this episode about the pros and cons of being a digital nomad. Now, just a bit of background, I actually did this journey before from 2016 to 2018. So I've also had experience for 2 years as a digital nomad in the past. Back then, I didn't have the financial freedom that I currently have. Basically, I was able to retire at 31, but back then, I was still trying to make passive income through different side hustles and trying to be location independent, trying to make a living while being abroad. So I've had experience in both being financially free and not being financially free, being a remote worker around the world. So again, that's why I wanted to make this episode in case you guys are wondering about the pros and cons. So let's just get right into it. The first pro is obviously I can be anywhere in the world. This was the main reason why I started the digital nomad journey. I would watch all these videos of people working remotely abroad, and this was before COVID. So this wasn't a common thing to be a remote worker, traveling and working from the comforts of your laptops, and I was just amazed at the opportunity. I didn't want to be stuck at a 9 to 5 in a cubicle, just wasting my best hours. I would look out at the window and see that, the sun's going down and I'm still in this office. I wasn't able to enjoy my life. Now I'm able to go out whenever I want to. I can work at cafes. I can go to board game cafes, escape rooms. Like, this is kind of stuff we like to do while we're abroad. Also, one of my bucket list items is to go to 100 countries before 100 years old. So while I'm doing this journey, this is kind of one of the things I'm trying to check off as well. I also wanted to show Sean outside of the US and what it's like to live abroad in different places. So it's really nice to be able to explore with him longer term in different countries. And this brings me to my next point, that you can live like a local instead of a traveler. So what do I mean by that? Instead of going to places for a few days, a week, and exploring places with friends, you can visit countries for a month at a time, sometimes even 3. Like, we were in Japan for 3 months, we were in Taiwan for 3 months, I was in Thailand for 3 to 4 months a long time ago. And what you're really able to do is experience life like a local. So when we got to Zagreb, we basically found our local gym, a supermarket, figured out public transportation. You're doing things that you normally wouldn't do when you're traveling for fun to different places. Usually when you're taking PTO from your work and traveling for like 2 weeks, you're trying to cram every single thing to see the sights and do all these different things. Whereas I can slow travel, I can experience it on my own time. And by living like a local and experiencing it in this way, you learn a lot. You talk to people from here, you learn about their culture, you learn about the different perspectives that you probably wouldn't get if you were just traveling for fun. Pro number 3 is the cost. A lot of people think that traveling abroad costs a ton of money, but I'm actually saving while I'm traveling. Being in the US in expensive places like California, you're spending a ton of money on rent, at restaurants, and things like that. I'm checking this up right now. It says as of July 2024, the average rent in San Francisco, California is $2,847 per month for a 1-bedroom apartment in a 586 square foot space. That is extremely expensive for such a small place. In Japan, I was getting a 2-bedroom place for $1,400 a month. And this place is only $700 a month. Granted, it is a studio, but you can rent for so much cheaper abroad as compared to high cost of living areas. Another thing, a lot of people think, planes, hotels, those cost a ton of money. But if you have credit cards that give you points, you can get a ton of free hotel stays and flights. So on our last legs, we did Korea, Shanghai, London. All of that was basically paid for by credit card points. If you guys are interested in my recommended credit cards, go ahead and check out the link in the description because it saved me a ton of money. Aside from the credit card points, you can also save a lot by booking 30 plus days on Airbnb, for example. They have monthly discounts that they offer, and this is kind of I got from booking this place. I also looked on Facebook groups, and monthly rentals are not as expensive as you think. Because you're traveling longer term, you do get discounts versus if you were to book a few nights. When you book a few nights, it's at least $100, $150 per night. But if you're booking longer term, you're gonna get a lot of discounts. And I'm also finding that meals in America are basically like $20 a meal, whereas abroad it's way cheaper. So we are actually saving money abroad, and we're having a lot more fun with our budget. So we're just going to gaming cafes and museums and random spots just when we felt like it. So when people ask us, like, what have you been up to? We have so much to say because there's so many things we're doing versus when we're in America, we're basically doing the same thing every day. Which leads me to my next point. Obviously, being a digital nomad is super fun. We've probably been to Disneyland like almost 10 times this year. in different countries as well, in Shanghai, Hong Kong, in Japan. We've been exploring so much because there's just so much that the world has to offer. I feel like when I'm back home in America, I'm basically doing the same things over and over again because you kind of run out of things to do. Whereas if you really feel like it when you are abroad, you can just take a trip somewhere else to another city in another country. It's just a lot easier to have fun, and usually most of these places, public transportation is really efficient, which leads to my next point. I think another pro is the amount of walking you do. While in America, I barely take any steps. I might go to the gym and walk on ellipticals, but other than that, I'm driving everywhere. So if you see here, my average daily steps here, if you can see it, was about 4,200 last year, and then 3,400 in 2021 and 1,975 in 2020. Obviously, this was during COVID time, so it's a little bit skewed. And in 2022, included some of the travels, which boosted it a bit. So honestly, my average is probably gonna be like 3,000 steps. Whereas now I'm averaging almost 10,000 steps. See, 9,880 for 2024, which is insane. We've been walking so much more while abroad that I feel like it's really healthy. I also don't like driving, so it's another pro for me that I'm out and about. It's healthier. I feel like it's better for my mental health to be outside of my place too. So it's just a lot more beneficial being out and abroad. And then lastly, I would say the food. The food is a huge pro, especially in Asia, because I just love Asian food. The food was so good that I remember Sean was like, how are we gonna go back to America and like eat sushi or whatever? Because it's just so much better abroad. I would say in Croatia, I'm not used to the food here as much, but like if you want to go to a place that has the foods you love, you can just go. So that's one of the pros as well, that you can eat your favorite foods and it's the legit food. Like in Japan, the sushi is amazing. The Korean barbecue is amazing in Korea as well. It's just like so good. So I love being able to experience that. Now let's go into the cons of being a digital nomad. One is that you have to figure out your routine everywhere you go. So this is something that we experience, that every time we go to a new place, we do have to find that supermarket, maybe the laundromat if they don't have washing machines. We have to find a gym, and it's actually kind of difficult sometimes. Some gyms abroad, like this one we have over here, you have to buy a new pair of shoes so that you switch into the clean shoes. Like there's different things that you might not be aware of. And if you book a place that isn't near a lot of these amenities, you're kind of out of luck. And sometimes Wi-Fi might not be as good as well in different places. Luckily, it's been fine for us, but that's something you have to note while you're a digital nomad. I realize while I'm traveling, I'm a lot happier when I do have a bit more of a routine. So yes, it can be a benefit that you can work at your own schedule, but also if you're someone who really like wants a routine, it can be a bit harder when you are abroad and moving around. Number two is if you're a content creator. This is kind of more specific to content creation. The engagement can really fluctuate. So basically, because we are content creators, we do post content on our TikTok, YouTube, Reels, and the engagement really does vary because we're in different countries. The platforms can detect that we are in Croatia, for example, so I feel like our content is being spread to people from Croatia, whereas our content is geared toward Americans. And because of that, we're not gonna get as many views and not as much engagement. But this is kind of only applicable to people who are in this realm of social media. So it might not be applicable to you, but we find that it does kind of affect our business. But the good thing is we're already financially free, so all of this is optional. And right now I'm just tapping into the enjoyment of just making content for you guys. This is off topic, but I have really been kind of honing in on like what can help you guys really become financially free and trying to work on those resources for you guys. So it's been nice to really tap into what fulfills me. But again, if you are a budding content creator who's trying to make a living from this, it may possibly be affected based on, you know, what type of content you're making and who you're gearing it towards, because it might be spreading to other regions that might not be applicable to your desired audience. The third con is if you are a remote worker and you have clients, or you're working a 9-to-5 with American hours, the hours could be hard. So for example, depending where you're at, you might be working at like midnight, 3 a.m., something like that. It just depends on if you have scheduled hours that you need to be on call for. And I know a lot of digital nomads might have client meetings that they have to take during crazy hours. So you need to plan for that and see if that's okay with you. As an example, if you are a 9-to-5 in San Francisco, you're gonna be possibly working from 2 a.m. to 10 a.m. in Japan time. So you need to see see if your boss can allow you to work different hours, or if you have clients, if they can schedule meetings in different times to make your life a lot easier. Luckily for us, we control our own schedules because we are financially free, so it doesn't really matter. And if we don't want to work, we just don't work. Every day is basically a weekend for us. It's just up to us to decide what we want to do with our time. So ideally, you guys should definitely check out my content to try to help you guys become financially free, so you can not only be location independent, but also control your own hours as well. The last con is being away from friends and family. You are going to be many, many miles away from your home, and you might get homesick. But to be honest, we have been abroad for over 9 months, and I think it's because we have each other that we don't really feel that feeling of homesickness. We also feel like with technology, we can keep in touch with friends and family, and also because we are financially free, to be honest, we can just fly home when we want to. Unless you have everything already booked, I hate to say it, but if you do have money because of things you have worked hard towards, that money can help you bridge that gap, that distance that you think you have with your friends and family. You're gonna be able to travel back home when you want to because you have the means to do so. So that's why I always say work hard now so you can reap the benefits later. So those are my pros and cons. I do think that everyone has different experiences. I also feel like when I traveled from 2016 to 2018, when I didn't have Sean and I was solo traveling, it was definitely a different experience. I also didn't have as much money back then. I was really trying to work hard and get to that financially free state, building passive income, starting side hustles, and I was just really grinding while I was abroad. And that was a totally different experience than now. But I would say between the two experiences, this list essentially applies to both my experiences from the past and now as well. If you guys had different experiences, let me know in the comments below. I want to hear about your guys' digital nomad journey or dreams, and I hope you guys found this helpful. If you guys like this episode, make sure to subscribe, hit the bell button to be notified of my latest videos, and I'll see you guys in the next one.